So sometimes it's helpful to see what could this look like in practice. And so you have an opportunity with a huge, huge heartfelt thank you to our colleagues from Cedar Rapids, Cynthia Phillips, who's Executive Director of High Schools there, and Dan DeVore, who is a high school principal in Cedar Rapids, have graciously agreed to allow us to share this video that they created of that initial meeting the standards affirmation conversation. In the video you are about to see, Dan has spent some time reflecting, doing a self-reflection on each of the progressions. And Cynthia has invited him to choose to look at those however he might please. Whatever way he finds helpful in organizing his thinking, she gave him full opportunity to approach that work as would best fit his style and his needs. And in this particular video, they are looking at Dan's competence relative to Standard 3. And so you'll see Dan uses a really powerful highlighting tool in Google to pull out the information that he finds most resonant, and then you'll hear them engage in a conversation where Dan speaks to the work he's been doing around Standard 3. What's especially powerful, and both of them would share this with you, although it's not in the video, as they debriefed, they talked about how without the language in the progression pulling all of this together, they would not have had the kind of conversation that this progression enabled. It simply provided focus for their conversation. It gave them the vocabulary to support their engagement with each other. And it really led to some powerful and deep reflective thinking and dialogue. So I would invite you to think about whether you're a supervisor, put that lens on. What could this look like as I engage in this conversation with those whom I supervise? And if you are that principal or the supervisee, notice how Dan approaches his self-reflection and his role in initiating that conversation and really owning his own learning.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Okay, so we are going to continue our conversation around the new leadership standards. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our initial meeting and we reviewed the 10 new standards. And in that overview, decided it would be best to chunk these out and schedule follow-up meetings to be able to talk specifically about each standard. So last time we reviewed standards 1 and 2. And for today, then we were going to look at standards 3 and 4. So are we ready to jump into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So last time you had also mentioned maybe thinking of some different ways to organize your thoughts through the process, especially as we started looking at the criteria under each standard. Do you want to talk me through maybe what you decided to do with that or what you're thinking as we move forward?
Yeah, I'll share my screen quick. So in a professional learning we did, our instructional coach, who's amazing, modeled a strategy through read and write that we could use as a staff, but then also students could use. And it's something I actually didn't know it did until she modeled it. But what I did is I highlighted each heading, like right here, and then color-coded my responses to the developing portion of the standard. So green meant I thought I was doing it well. Yellow thought there's some room for growth there. And then the cool part about this is after I did the first couple or the next couple standards, I can pull the collect highlights. So it actually creates a Google Doc that I was able to share with you that pulls out my highlights automatically. So from that part, I shared that with you and then just started taking some notes and gives us a little bit cleaner aspect of what we can go from. So that helped me organize and so that I could find it again when we came back up and it wasn't another piece of paper floating around in my office, but it was easy to catalog and jot down some items.
This is awesome. So I'm thinking then as we go through standards 3 and 4, you've got the criteria pulled out here and already text coded as to maybe where you're thinking there's evidence that supports, hey, I'm doing this well. And maybe some that are saying, ooh, what might be some more ideas of either what I'm doing or that could end up possibly being goals for next year that we work on. Would it make sense then, as the reflection and I listen to you talk and reflect on some of these things, I could add some comments. If I hear maybe you mentioned something that's not already in this, I'll go ahead and add some comments on there, and then we can kind of keep this as a collection of that evidence and information.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's start then with standard 3. And standard 3 is equity and cultural responsiveness. And the standard itself says educational leaders strive for equity of educational opportunity and culturally responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being.
So yeah, the standard's super interesting to me in general, and it's always an area for growth. I think coming as a growing up middle income white male, I had all these advantages that you get to learn more and more about as you go. So that's an area that I think I'll continue using as a goal in a growth area and an interest area. But so for this first criteria, I just mentioned that one of the things that we try to focus on at Metro is the idea that we hear you, we see you, we care about you as the individual. In the parent meetings and the orientations and graduation, it's a common theme that our goal is to teach the student in front of us. And the only way we can do that is to learn about them and appreciate them for who they are, and then get to know them and how we can help them the best and support them. So one of the nice things about working at Metro is you wouldn't survive if you didn't believe in this first criteria, because the staff wouldn't accept you. They really value all of our students. So that's, you have to be able to do that to even take a step forward. So the other goal we have here, and that's just part of how this place operates, and something I try to support in ways through scheduling and through, the conversations with parents and all those things, is that we want and through hiring, every student to find somebody here to connect with. So we really try to have a diverse workforce, and that's not always as diverse in race as maybe we'd like, but even in points of view, it can lead to more disagreements among the staff when they don't all see eye to eye on every little thing, but it also allows for students to have multiple partners in multiple perspectives that will help support them. Do you want me to keep going?
I was adding a couple of comments there with what you were saying at the end. Let me get this commented in there. Hopefully it'll pop up. I think a couple of important things to consider as part of evidence with this is that structure you have for every student to have an adult, at least one adult to connect with. I know that is something that you're explicit about in your leadership and in the building, the model that's set up there within the building. And then the second add to that would be the goal of multiple adults. So students having multiple adults that support as they go through their education there. So just
yeah, and I think the one thing I'd add to that, because I think that is important, but it's also something that I was lucky and fortunate to come into. I mean, that's just part of the Metro culture. But I think one area that I do try to focus on is reiterating that as much as possible. So it's in the conversations, who are you connected with? First setting the tone that we want you to be connected with somebody. Here's why it will be helpful. And we even talk through, because we're good at recognizing when you're not doing well and finding ways to help you out of that, right? So those conversations are all at the core of it. The advisor system in and of itself, regardless who is here, that would still happen. But it is an area that I keep trying to build up through those conversations and specifics.
okay. And I think you get student feedback then in that way all the time in those conversations, and explicitly calling that forth in all those interactions. I know you have formal and informal ways that then you gather that feedback from students.
Yeah.
You work through when they aren't feeling met in that way, you guys work through a process then to make sure that goal is met.
That's absolutely the goal.